The backlash continues against Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, and yet Wall Street analysts, along with those making bets, say it's going to break $1 billion and be bigger than Oppenheimer? Wait a sec. Has that ever happened in the history of YouTube? That a film ratioed on video after video goes on to succeed this way? Today, we'll tell you where we're placing our bet and how The Odyssey just might do. Hello, friends, and welcome back yet again. More truth with a capital T on the way and analysis you need to know. A PhD level of understanding as to what's going on in Hollyweird, and no tuition is required. As we dive in, click that like button. I'm going to hand it over now to Jonas J. Campbell, who's going to lead us through what the latest is when it comes to The Odyssey and the predictions. Folks, I got to say, I'm starting to think the first weekend's going to be huge, but maybe Wall Street, maybe Hollyweird, maybe they're miscalculating about the holdover, the legs. Let us know in the comments down below if you agree.
Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is coming into theaters soon. It's the next development in the Odyssey cinematic universe. Oh, wait, they're not doing that. This is just another Christopher Nolan movie. But there's been a lot of debate over the last few months about whether or not this movie is going to hit big or flop like so many dramatic rethemings of classic stories have been over the last few years. Nolan doesn't have a fantastic track record over the last few years like he used to be before, let's say, 2020. Films like Tenet might make him seem a little bit more permeable than he used to. But now, out of AOL and Slash Film, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey will have a bigger box office opening than Oppenheimer. And Oppenheimer, well, that was a big darn deal. So...
Yep.
that was an exasperated breath.
No, that's a I'm ready to attack this, but I'm letting you finish.
Yep. Let's read their opening tip of thesis here from Ryan Scott of Slash Film on AOL.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Christopher Nolan is truly in a class of his own. Nolan's name alone does more to move the needle than almost any piece of IP could.
Is this written by Christopher Nolan by any chance, this article? Because it sounds a lot like things that he says.
Yeah, he doesn't get on the internet from what I hear. He's above us all.
Right? He doesn't have a smartphone because he's so enlightened and
right.
Unlike us. But then if he goes to a restaurant and they have a QR code menu, he's stuck.
Well, he's stuck unless he has a production assistant there with his printed out emails in a folder, right?
Yes.
He's one of the highest grossing directors ever at the box office, and he's once again going to prove his worth with his big budget adaptation of The Odyssey.
Challenge.
Yeah. It's a massive epic that in the hands of any other filmmaker would be a ridiculous gamble. Why? Actually, I kind of disagree with that. The Odyssey is a classic story that's pretty easy to make.
Yeah.
Wishbone did it, and he's a dog.
That's right. It's a massive epic that
He's a dog. He doesn't have a soul.
In Nolan's hands, it's poised to deliver one of the biggest opening weekends of 2026.
One of the highest grossing directors ever at the box office. I challenge that.
I guess we have to look at like individual directors.
I guess the Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises both made a lot of money.
Right.
Oppenheimer.
Right.
Okay. All right. Fine. Withdrawn.
And are we counting producer credits here? Because if we go for producer credits, I think Kathleen Kennedy technically wins everything because of her associations with Spielberg.
She was really good at standing in the room.
Yeah.
She stood very well. She had, her shoulders were back, and she did the lap thing. Yeah.
There are women who are in both Avatar and the Marvel universe here. All it would take for her being in Star Wars, and she could say she's part of all of the biggest franchises of all time. I would say it's more important when you're a director, though. Continuing the relationship that began with Oppenheimer in 2023, Nolan is once again teaming up with Universal Pictures for the release. Based on the early numbers, it looks like it will remain a fruitful partnership. The Odyssey is projected to open between 98 and 132 million when it arrives next week, per Box Office Theory. Generally speaking, I trust Box Office Theory's numbers. Sean Robbins is actually pretty solid in all of this.
Yep, their 3-day pinpoint is 118, and they're doing a domestic total pinpoint of 430.
Mm-hmm. Earlier estimates were slightly more conservative. What conservative? Ranging from 80 to 100 million per deadline.
There's
which
nothing conservative about this movie.
The needle is pointing up as the release date creeps up, or maybe Box Office Theory is just coming in to update Anthony D'Alessandro's numbers. In the notes for this, here we have the Odyssey's opening weekend box office according to Crypto Slate, which I do believe is one of those markets where you're allowed to gamble on random things, like whether or not certain words will be used in political speeches, or I think Polymarket has one on whether or not Jesus comes by 2027. This one says the Odyssey's opening weekend box office. It looks like 31% of people have this above 115 million. So I'm going to say that's confidence from the market there. Actually,
I guess.
Yes, I guess we have 23, 28, and 31. So we're near 70% that think it's going to open above 100 million.
And it very well might. I mean, what I'm seeing when I'm looking at theaters, and I've looked at quite a few theaters so far with this movie, I'm seeing something that I think a lot of people are overlooking.
What's that?
So, you know, everyone's like, all of the IMAX showings are sold out. Yeah, sure, a lot of them, many of them are. Many of them aren't, but there are still a lot of people in them. Guess what's not sold out, Jonas? The regular theaters. The regular showings. You need more than just the theater's one IMAX theater to actually have a successful box office. And when I look at the non-IMAX showings for this movie, it's like opening night, like 4 tickets sold, 8 tickets sold.
Why is it? Do you think that is? Is this actually, Caro? Why don't you answer Marv's supposition here? I'd rather have your opinion on this one. If you are interested in this film, please tell me why. But if not, what is it that is failing with regular audiences here? You know, we get movies like Troy that are still talked about today on some level. And then we have Christopher Nolan's Odyssey that, as far as the online discourse is going, and we all know that online isn't necessarily real life, this movie has so many red flags on it, but normie audiences don't necessarily listen to online discourse. What do you think is driving audience sentiment on this?
I'm going to say that we don't really talk about it in school as well as we used to, because I know there's a couple of schools that are kind of, I think it's like, I don't know. It's like a handful of them that were priding themselves on getting rid of the Odyssey from the curriculum because it was like full of like masculine, you know, bad messaging and all of that. It was very strange. And then there was also people who were taking, I think there was one time when Amazon tried to take the Odyssey off of their store, and you know, that happened. The same thing with Orwell's 1984, where they tried to like mess with it and all of that. And these are also services, much like some online services, that they'll take your stuff away from you and not like reimburse you for it. So like there was and it's in their 2S and everything. But when I used to teach and I used to work with students and the Odyssey would come up, they would always be very confused about what it was that they were supposed to be reading or understanding. And some of that actually has to do with an article that I had submitted to Marv the other day, just looking at you, about language. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And about how these days we are not actually challenging students to learn this type of vernacular that's presented in the poem, right? And so because they find it difficult, they don't want to engage with it. And I think maybe in some cases a normie audience may just remember that the Odyssey was difficult to work with and they're not really interested in the movie. And then you've got like, I want to say you probably also have like the different layers of what's going on within the Odyssey as well, because it is technically a mythical telling, right, about a guy who's trying to find his way home, and he just keeps having like, you know, gods like put like these little chess pieces in front of him, being like, "No, today you have the Hydra, have fun," right, and all of that. So
you know that is actually a really good point. There's a super heroic aspect of it, but he's supposed to be a normal man who's outwitting the gods, or his own endurance takes him past what the gods are wanting here. And then sometimes those gods are just a good-looking woman who wants him to stay a while, right?
Yeah, 2 years, no big deal.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the mythical tales of a great hero and his exploits. Obviously, it's also the sequel to the Iliad, which is a tale about a hero and his exploits. But in looking at this, it's so funny. Like, Matt Damon is the central character. I don't see many people talking about Matt Damon at all.
Nobody.
It seems like the supporting cast is soaking up all of the oxygen.
Here's the thing. Nobody's talking about Matt Damon. Nobody's talking about Anne Hathaway. No one's talking about Tom Holland. And those are the three people that I think are going to be in the majority of this movie. I don't think, like, just judging on the Odyssey, Helen of Troy is not a major character.
She's not.
In the Odyssey. She's in the Iliad. She's mentioned in chapter 4, and all they do is talk about how beautiful she is. She's not actually a character. Yeah. And, she never had a twin sister. And then Sinon, or, whoever Elliot Page is playing, I don't think that Sinon's not even in the Odyssey. Mm-mm.
So they're cribbing from the other material. They've, I guess, got the permission from the Homer estate in order to go into the appendices on this one.
Yes, the Homer estate.
Right. Looking at the cast list, I mean, it does have a remarkable cast. If Elliot Page was in this, 20 years ago, that would have been interesting. Put her in a blonde wig and.
I can't remember. I think Marvin and I were talking about it at one point. If Elliot was in there as Hermes, my thought was oh, that would make sense.
Yeah,
right?
I had heard originally that Elliot Page was playing Hermes, and I actually kind of liked that casting, but apparently that's not the case. Yeah. I knew that Elliot Page was not going to be Achilles the way they were all saying. There was no way. But apparently, according to Chris Gore, there is a line in there about how Sinon is the greatest soldier they've ever seen, or something the strongest.
Oh, wow.
All 5'2".
The only casting that I would see, and I would never want this in a Punch-Out movie in the literal sense, because I would not go see that Punch-Out movie, but Little Mac vibes is what I'm getting from watching Elliot Page in the ring, right. Where you get someone who is a few pixels tall, and then you have these massive boxers that are,
a Punch-Out. If a Punch-Out movie ever happens, it has to be animated.
Right. You know what's fascinating? Nolan is the director of a film that I think is a perfect film, and that is The Prestige. And it's
that was actually good.
Put on at any moment, and I will watch it in its entirety and want to watch it again. I usually when I get to the end credits, I hate whatever song that has been put on the end credits, but I even like the end credits song on The Prestige. But this one, I'm not sure. I don't know if this one is going to have cultural relevance other than here's another retelling of the Odyssey. It is doing well in the PLF screens because the kind of people who want to watch a Christopher Nolan movie right now are probably the ones that are going to, be springing for those tickets. I heard him described as Michael Bay for the Whole Foods crowd. And that made me laugh so hard.
That's not a nice thing to say.
That's so funny. But, that's so funny. But my question though is, can you make $1 billion just selling out IMAX theaters? Because I don't think you can.
No.
I don't think you can either. And he's important for
Oppenheimer.
IMAX.
Well, so here's the thing with Oppenheimer. They're it's going to open bigger than Oppenheimer. Nobody had any expectations for Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, had legs because of word of mouth. I don't know if this is going to have that.
And it had legs because of Barbenheimer. And that is the best way to end this one.
Well, it's been a good time. It's been a great time, folks. It's been a groovy time, even. Keeping the Holly Weirds in line. We know them better than they know themselves. As we say goodbye, folks, please consider clicking that like button, drop a comment down below, and join the community dialogue today. And until the next time, we say it every time. Keep learning. Keep growing. And as always, keep having fun.